Okay, this is the long version of the Vandy Rape Retrial. It's almost like we're broadcasting from a bunker, isn't
I
it?
feel like we're in London or somewhere in the brick walls and we're trying to break through because all communication's been knocked out.
All right, let me give y'all some commentary here that you're going to want to know about. I cross-examined Joseph Quinzio in the first trial. And Quinzio in court made a comment about that he felt like that Brandon and his lawyer were implicating him in the event and telling him what to say. I asked him at that time, I said, well, now, Mr. Quinzio, I've never met you before today, have I? No, you hadn't. And I've certainly never been to California, no. And you and I have never talked previously, no. And he made some comment about, well, I wasn't talking about you. I didn't go any further with that, but the reason that I cross-examined Joseph Quinzio in the first trial, and I have no idea if this is true, but I'm not going to vouch for the credibility of Joseph Quinzio, but Quinzio maintained that Brandon showed up at his house and put him on the phone with his attorney, where his attorney told him that he needed to get rid of his computer and hard drive and get rid of his iPhone 4 and then instructed Brandon to take him to get another iPhone, like an iPhone 5, and may have even have paid for it. And that attorney that he was referencing was Albert Perez. That's who he was talking about. My wife says that the entire time I was cross-examining Joseph Quinzio in the first trial, Perez was anxiously and nervously sitting at a counsel table like a long-tailed cat in a room full of rocking chairs. I don't know. My back was to him. But I don't have any reason to dispute what she tells me. But that was the issue. That was why Tom Thurman bannered around and said that Albert Perez was an unnamed co-conspirator. You recall that issue?
Hard after him. It was all over.
Yeah, it was all over. Yeah, no, that was the whole thing. Now I imagine the court ruled that inadmissible today. I think some of what they did back in the back was the defense team saying, Your Honor, we believe that Mr. Quinzio is going to implicate Mr. Perez or wants to implicate Mr. Perez, and Mr. Perez is not on trial today, and if Your Honor allows him to implicate Mr. Perez, it could have a prejudicial impact on Vandenburg being fairly considered, and it's not probative for Vandenburg's guilt. Neither Mr. Perez is not charged with a count that relates to this, and Brandon Vandenburg is not charged with a count that relates to this, and there isn't a conspiracy count among the counts being presently considered. And so I imagine that the court wisely ruled that, hey, Mr. Quinzio, you can't say that Albert Perez told you to get a new phone or wipe the hard drive, and there was even some allegation by Quinzio at some point that Perez may have paid either for the iPhone 5 or may have paid for the computer cleaning, hard drive cleaning apparatus, something. I don't recall that exactly, but that's what that issue was. That would have been an appropriate ruling if the court made that ruling. Yeah. It would have been an appropriate ruling. I have no idea if Perez really did this or not. I don't know. Quinzio, frankly, is somebody that had a lot to gain from making the state happy with his testimony. He had a felony reduced to a misdemeanor. He's still got an expungement, it would appear, that's being held up until after this trial to kind of have something to dangle over his head to ensure that they get the cooperation they want. This is one of the seedier elements of trying someone, is when the government has to enter into these illicit deals, like banks. For instance.
Yeah.
You have to enter into these illicit deals in order to get the people you want, and then the people want to know why it is you didn't go after these people or that person.
You already had people on video. Why all these deals? Why all this stuff?
I don't know, Austin. I wouldn't have done it.
Why wouldn't the DA just go after the 4 they got on video?
I wouldn't have done it. And Brandon Banks again, and I know Kathy and I have worn this out. We've done it privately. I'm talking about Kathy Russell. We've talked about this privately. We've talked about it on air. But here again is Brandon Banks. And, they claim that they found a search query that said, how do you erase a Samsung? And you know, they want the jury to believe that it was Brandon Vandenburg trying to figure out how to erase his phone. And lo and behold, we find out that Vandenburg doesn't even own a Samsung, and that it's Brandon Banks that owns the Samsung.
So he was on the computer,
and so he was on. It would appear.
Would he be the one looking at pornography?
It would be. It would appear. It is a fair inference. This jury may infer that it was Brandon Banks looking up the pornography, and Brandon Banks doing searches on how to erase a phone. And again, it's Brandon Banks. He's the thorn in their side. He's the thorn in their paw.
Well, you know, as a guy
that doesn't mean that Vandenburg didn't do anything. But
oh, I know. So, but as somebody sitting on the other side and then hearing that, well, I mean, you know, I've been handcuffed and arrested, and I've been taken down to the jail, so I'm an outlaw. I know you're kind of an outlaw.
Yeah, but we're not criminals.
Yeah.
Because as my friend George Christie says, no, I've been rendered infamous. I'm kidding. But my friend says there's a difference between an outlaw and a criminal.
But if I called you, if I called you as a client or called you when you were an attorney,
right,
and said, I'm in trouble, whatever it is that a normal reaction for an attorney to immediately start telling me, delete your phones, destroy them, clean them, go do this and that? And is that
what
would normal for attorneys?
I could see an attorney in legitimate legal advice saying, well, as long as the video isn't discovered, and as long as you exercise your right to remain silent, you may be okay. Should an attorney say, go erase the phone? Absolutely not. Should an attorney say, hey, go down and buy this program and erase the phone? Should an attorney buy the program for you to erase the phone? Should an attorney get on the phone with a key state's witness and try to tell him what he needs to say, which is what Quinzio alleges? None of that should happen. And that's an example of what I mean when I say that I think the Perezes are so personally vested and close to Brandon Vandenburg that I don't think he should be defending Mr. Vandenburg in this trial, because they do not have an arm's length client-attorney relationship. They are way closer than that.
We have college students.
Would I tell my son? Wait a minute. Let me say this. Wait. Whoa. Okay. Let me say this. Would I tell my son, you better erase that phone and get something to clean that hard drive? Would I do that for my son? Absolutely. I hope I've trained my son to not do stuff like this. But would I do it for my child? Yeah. The point is Albert's more like Brandon's dad than he is Brandon's lawyer, and that's a problem.
Well, and another thing that's different is, like, if I've got a son, and I know you do too. So if somebody woke me up at 3 o'clock in the morning and just said, called me, and said somebody because these kids are sending stuff to each other,
right?
You know, and called me, and I mean, I was told by the girl over at Charlie's that night. She said, you know, some young girl, I mean, real young, had sent a video of herself to some boy, you know, with no clothes on and everything. And so, you know, the people that are older are horrified by that when that happens.
Right.
So if I got that call without knowing there's a rape or anything at all going on, I think the normal reaction of a coach or a player at that point in time is, if they don't know rape's involved or whatever, would be delete that off your phone. I just think that'd be a normal reaction, because you don't want somebody sending you pornography or those kind of things. If they called and said, hey, Dad, a girl was in a room down here and the 4 guys may have just raped her and they sent me the video of it, what I do then? I don't know what I don't know what I do.
I'm going to protect my son. I'm just telling you.
No, I'm just saying, if he isn't involved, then if he just got sent the video, yeah. I don't think that you're committing. I mean, I don't think anybody's actually thinking about him committing a sex crime cover up at this moment. When they would do that, I just think most people would say delete.
I know this. Joseph Quinzio had made commentary in police reports to police officers and the like, in statements that he gave. He was very upset with Albert and Brandon both, and he very much resents the fact that he was brought into the crosshairs here and brought into the middle of this thing, and he's mad at him. So
Chris Boyd has been charged.
But does that give Quinzio a motive to paint Albert in an unfair and untrue light? It does. And is Quinzio maybe remembering Albert's actions worse than they were? It's possible. Well, because he resents.
And the government's charging people, and so they're charging people for sex crime cover-ups and whatever it is they did. So Chris Boyd, after the 4 guys got arrested, a week later, Chris Boyd got arrested.
Sounds like we may have a comment. Let me see if I can do this.
Yeah.
You're on with the long version.
Hi, this is Brenda from Detroit, and I'm calling in with members of CC, Portchata.com, and I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Do you think that baby is going to testify?
Oh, hey, would you say that again? Because we're going to turn you up. You're not coming through that well.
It's a court chatter person.
Now you're a court chatter person from Detroit.
I'm Brenda from Detroit, yes.
Hi.
First of all, thank you for watching our coverage. We're very honored to have you. Second of all,
Love it. We love it here.
I really think that if I were on this defense team, he would be under subpoena.
What was the
Really?
question?
Yes, I would. I'd call him. I'll tell you why I'd call him, Brenda.
Okay.
I'd call him because he would assert a privilege, and then I could use his former testimony testifying that Brandon did not direct him, solicit him, aid him, or attempt to aid him.
Okay.
And those are the 4 elements that are key to criminal responsibility. That's what the government has to show. Not just that Brandon was there and not just that he cheered it on, but he directed the action, solicited the people to commit it, aided it in some way, or attempted to aid it in some way.
Okay, and also I had another question about Mackenzie. Why would he be allowed to testify if, in fact, that he did not have a deal? I just
You and I were born at night. We weren't born last night. That's the answer. Patrick Frogue and Jody Bell are 2 of the finest criminal defense attorneys in Tennessee, anywhere in the state of Tennessee. And they sat out there in the front row of that trial. I pointed them out to the jury in the first trial and recognized them as 2 of very esteemed and capable colleagues. And they weren't sitting out there listening to Mackenzie admit to committing felonies because they really don't have a deal. And in fact, before closing argument, I argued in limine to not let General Thurman tell the jury that they had a day upcoming, because I said, Your Honor, under Napier versus Illinois, you're allowing this prosecutor to intentionally deceive and mislead the jury. Come on, Judge Watkins. You know darn well both kids have a deal.
they have to have a deal.
Well, of course they do. Of course they do.
Possible that they don't have a deal, because this right here could set him up to be found guilty just clearly based upon his prior testimony.
Oh, if they tried him now, they could bring in the transcript of his testimony, and it'd be the shortest trial in history. The only trial that would be shorter would be the malpractice trial, considering whether Jody Bell and Patrick Frogue committed malpractice. And I can promise you, they're way too good of attorneys for that. So it's disingenuous to tell us there's no deal. It's a lie. It's a blatant misrepresentation, and I expect more of the government than that.
And what if he's not told the truth under oath, which would add perjury to all of his other problems?
Well, that's true. He would have committed perjury. Not only that, Brenda, you got to understand that what the government tells you is, okay, we may give you a deal if we feel that you've been truthful, but the arbiter of whether you've been truthful is the guy whom you're trying to impress in the hopes that you'll be okay on down the road. So there's no writing in counting that's encompassing this deal in existence. I mean, they didn't write it down and hold it in abeyance or anything. They just looked at them and had a few winks and a few nods and a you knows and a you knows. But there is a deal somewhere. It's just arguable as to in what platform.
Judge is back.
Back?
Hey, the judge is back, Brenda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Call back, Brenda.
Taking my call. Thank you all.
Thank
All
you.
right,
Have
thank
a good
you.
day.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
That's just the incredible reach of, wait a minute, we got to do something here. All right, here we go. That's just the incredible reach of this show. We're broadcasting on YouTube in Clarksville, Tennessee, off my cell phone, and we've got listeners in Detroit. Tell that to your advertisers. Speaking of which, First Choice Moving and Storage, they are the first choice because they're the best choice, and Justin Swallows, the host of the Saturday Sports Splash on WJZM. Back to more action. We'll be back at the next break. You're getting the long version of the Vandy Rape Retrial.
Steve.
My radio show